there's really two paths when it comes to creative finance. So subject to, you're going to do if there's still a lien on the property, meaning there's still a mortgage on the property. Owner finance, though, you can do that one with if there's no lien or no mortgage on the property, or you could do like a hybrid model, like that flip that I did. I did like a hybrid in a sense. So I did subject to for her existing loan balance, but she wanted a payment also for me to do the deal subject to. So she wanted, I think, 20K. And I was like, I don't want to, give you 20K up front because I got to worry about all my rehab costs and things like that. So I did like a owner finance for the 20K. So I did 5K up front, 15K a balloon payment in 6 months. So that's the beauty of subject to or owner finance, I'll say, because you can get really creative on whatever you want to do. The thing about creative finance is given a bad rap, it's given a bad name because you got to think who's pushing it. Like, who benefits from traditional mortgages? Your banks, your lenders, all of that, and they're big money. So all their advertising is going to go towards pushing their stuff. So anything against the grain, they're going to be like, oh no, this is legal, you can't do it. But it's not true. Any business, typically, not any, but most businesses are sold on creative financing terms. If you see a business sells for like 1.5 billion, nobody has 1.5 billion liquid, and you can't get a loan for that much. So a lot of times what they are going to do is some type of creative financing structure. So that's kind of, the basics when it comes to it. Now, how do you do it? So subject to is just purchasing subject to the seller's existing mortgage. So their mortgage still stays in place and it still remains on their credit report. This is beneficial for them. This is why they want to do it. A lot of times people may get in a situation with bad credit and things like that. Think, if this stays in your name, this is a way to boost your score, right? So if you're making your payments on time, and I have a clause in my contract that also gives people assurance to say, hey, if I miss one payment, this whole agreement is null and void. So meaning if I've been in this contract for 9 years, I've been making payments on this for 9 years, and God forbid, aliens abduct me or something like that, and I miss 1 month, guess what? You get your entire house back with equity paid, with a ton of equity. Your mortgage balance has been paid down for 9 years, and you get to choose whatever you want to do with it. You can keep it, you can sell it for a big sum, or do the same exact thing with somebody else. Okay. So it gives the seller a ton of options for doing it. Okay. So your typical situations for subject to would be more like low equity, I'll say. So for example, I've got one that I'm working on right now where they just brought it last year, and he brought it with a VA loan, and it was flipped. So there's literally no equity in the house whatsoever. So if he sells it, he's actually going to be in the red. Even if I charge, let's say, a 1% commission, or even if I charge 0% commission and give 1% to buyer's agent, he's still going to be in the red because of his fees and closing costs, all of those things. He would, lose money when selling the property. So this is when I pitch subject to him. Now, depends all on their pain point. Ideally, I want to get in the house with no money. All I want to do is pay your closing costs. Like my second one I brought, I didn't give her any money for it. I just paid her closing costs. But that's how you get an insane cash on cash return. So that one, paying her closing costs and my closing costs, I want to say was 4K total. Okay. My total check that I wrote to actually purchase that property was 4K. She has like a special thing with the Navy, so she gets a lower interest rate. So her mortgage is $1,700, I want to say, and I rent that out for $2,500 a month. So $800 cash flow. And then we could kind of get into this a little bit too, how my exit strategy with my properties, I don't do traditional rentals, I'll do seller finance.
Okay.
So
wait, I have a question first.
Okay.
If you're just assuming your loan, why is it closing costs? I don't really understand the transition of that, or how you even gain ownership.
Yeah. Good question. So you're actually closing on it. So you guys separate them. The deed is where the power is at, right? Okay. So the mortgage is just only your payment. So take example, if you go to the grocery store and you buy groceries, all right, you pay with your credit card. Let's say you pay with Amex, right? All right, when you walk out the store, your receipt is going to say paid for by Amex, payment method Amex. But who actually owns the groceries?
I do.
You do. Even though you use Amex to pay for them, you own the groceries. So it's like the same concept.
Okay, that wasn't a good one because I don't understand
Okay. All right. So think of it. Your receipt is the deed, right? It shows who has ownership.
Okay.
And you walking out with the groceries, you have possession of it, right?
Yes.
Amex was just your payment method. Amex, I guess if you don't, well, they're not gonna come and take your groceries, but that's kind of what it is, I'll say, when it comes to subject to. So you got to think whoever holds title is the one who controls the property. Payment doesn't matter, bro. Who cares?
Okay.
Now you got to be smart with it though. Be strategic. If you're dealing with a bigger bank, which most of the time you are, because even if they close with a smaller lender, they're more likely going to sell it to a bigger bank. They don't care as much, typically, knock on wood, as long as you make your payments. If you don't make your payments, that's when issues happen.
Okay.
And also a big benefit for subject to is taxes, of course, because even though the mortgage is in their name, you got to be very specific with the seller on this also too. They don't get the right to deduct mortgage interest on their taxes anymore because they're not paying the mortgage anymore. You're paying the mortgage. So with you paying the mortgage, you should get those tax benefits for that also.
Okay. So I have a question. Let me figure out how to
Okay.
Oh, okay. So if they have a loan
Mhm.
and their mortgages tied to them, can they purchase another property still?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
So how it can offset, because okay, they do have the loan, it's still in their name and it would be on their DTI, but how you can offset that is with a lease agreement. So in the situation that they do want to purchase another property, then you just provide a lease agreement to the lender,
Okay.
stating that you're the tenant and they're the landlord. So same thing as if they had a traditional rental property.
Okay.
It won't give them income per se, like to count towards a higher pre-approval, but it will offset it.
Okay.
The lease
So
agreement. Yeah, exactly. It'll offset it. The only way you can run into trouble is if you got a VA one, which a lot of these are, because there's VA eligibility. Is usually up to a certain point. Let's say 700,000, for example. 800. Let's say no, I think it's 800,000 or around there is their VA eligibility. So if they want to buy another home using their VA loan, it depends on what the price point is for that. So I've got another one in the works where similar situation. He knows he doesn't want to buy another home anytime soon, but he does want to buy, a bigger new construction, at least $500,000 home within 5 years. So for that specific one, I structured it to be I'll give him I'll refinance in 3 years, which I don't want to do. I want to keep it in his name. But you gotta think the benefit of owning real estate. So okay, I own it, and within 3 years I get the decision. I can refinance it into my name or my company's name, and we go from there. I keep it regular, or because 3 years he's built up equity, I could sell it, make some funds from there. So it's just different options.
Okay, I like that. So what other finance, like creative financing, would you do between properties and subject?
Owner finance.
Okay.
Owner finance is what I prefer. Yeah. So the big thing about subject to is you basically assume all the seller's terms. So whatever they have. So they're really good right now because what we had 2020, 2021, and so on and so on. We had 3%, 4% interest rate. So that's why they're sweet, and it's very easy to cash flow. Now, if you're buying a home that somebody just bought last year, which I have done, it's just the deal has to make sense because you're dealing with a higher interest rate. So that's why I like the seller finance option, because I can get more monthly when I do seller finance, and I also get a down payment. So going back to that example, cost me what, $4K or so to do that deal. I did seller finance, so I got a down payment of $16K and I cash flow $800 a month. So I got my money back like that. My cash return was like 400%, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So that's why I like doing it, because it's a lot more creative when it comes to doing it that way. Now, owner finance, I really like owner finance. They're just a bit harder to find, and the sellers are more stubborn because owner finance means there's no mortgage or lien on the properties. The property's completely paid off. So you got to think, who has their properties paid off? Typically people who have owned their home for years and years. So they're usually a lot more stubborn. Their homes, they think they're worth more than they are, and they have their memories, all things like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the issues when it comes to negotiation. I think it takes a lot more follow-up. They're not necessarily as in distress, but how I typically pitch owner finance is I will let them know, because they want to sell, but they usually want to cash out because they want to retire.
Yeah.
I say, all right, well, if we sell it, or if I buy it for your price, guess what? You're going to get a check, or you're going to get those proceeds for that large amount. Guess who's coming to knock that you got that large amount?
Yeah.
Uncle Sam. And so you don't really have that large account, or you don't have that large amount anymore because Uncle Sam's coming to take. Or what we could do is we could do an owner finance structure where I'll pay you some up front if I'm pitching some up front,
Okay.
but we can completely avoid taxes that way. And you know, we could, let's say I just give you cash per month. Now you can avoid Uncle Sam completely.
Okay.
That's kind of how I pitch it that way. You just got to let them know. And even if they're not going for that, you can let them know, like, let's say it's 200,000. All right, if I give you 200,000 in cash, what do you plan on doing with that? Most people don't really have an answer for it, you know. But what if I could give you, I don't know, 2,000 a month for the next 10 years, or whatever it is.
Okay.
Now you've got a lot more options. Now you have guaranteed money coming in. Now you have a lot more flexibility versus just having one. It's hard having $200,000 in your account. You may be like, man, you may want to go on that shopping strip in Miami or do whatever. I said strip. You may want to go to the strip club. You know, you may want to do whatever with that versus, okay, I'm getting a consistent 2,000 a month without me having to do anything. That's how I pitch it to them, is you become the bank. You're getting true passive income. You're in a true position of power at that point.
Okay. So doing it with the older people, again, God forbid, one of them passes away, do you still have ownership of that property, or does it go to...
Yeah, you have ownership of the property because you own the property. Remember, you have the deed. Yep, okay. It's under your name. So it depends on what you put in your contract. Like if you put in your contract, ideally they would probably have heirs, things like that. So you probably continue to make your payments. But it's all how you structure the contract, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah, when it comes to that.
Okay. So going back to section
2.
How much would you typically put down if you do have to put something down? Does that depend on what they owe? Does it depend on the person?
Depends on the person and what they want. All depends on their pain point. Like, yeah, all depends. So that flip, like I said, she wanted 20K, so that's why, you know, I structured it that way. I'm not gonna give more than 20K up front. It just doesn't make much sense for me to do that. That one I'm talking about, that he wants me to refinance in 3 years, I think I'm giving 9K up front, which is super high for me. I gotta run the numbers on that because I don't even, that actually is tight. I don't like to be tight in deals, but that one is tight. But that's what he needed, at least 9K up front.
To move, or?
Yeah, because he's using it to pay down some debts and things like that too. Yeah, so I think originally he wanted like 20K or something like that. I was like, yeah, no, not doing that. So got him down to 9K, which was literally his bottom number. So we're able to, you know, make some things work with that. That actually, I struck kind of owner finance too, because yeah, he wanted the 20, so I'm giving him 9K up front, and I'll give him a balloon payment in 3 years when I refinance also. So that's why I really like creative finance, because you could structure a deal to be whatever you want. So if you're dealing with a seller and you guys may be stuck on price. This happens all the time, you know, if you're trying to buy it traditionally, like, you know, if you're doing a cash offer or whatever. All right, well, I'll give you your price, but you give me my terms. For me, I don't really care about price. I care about the terms for it. Okay. Let's say we're doing owner finance. All right, let's say you want 150. All right, well, if I assess the deal doesn't make sense at 150, no, how about I do 160? And how about I do 160 with 0% interest over 30 years, whatever it is. For a lot of people, they just think about the money. They think about the price. Yeah. So they're like, all right, well, you're giving me higher than I even want. Cool. Okay, but if we really look at that,
the interest over 30 years.
0% interest.
At 160.
Yeah. So let's do some math on that. So mortgage calculator. If I do 160, for those you're gonna want to put a down payment. Let's say, let's say I do 20K down. All right, 20K. All right, let's say 160, 20K down, 0% interest over 30 years. I got a monthly payment of $388
Yeah, that's crazy.
Would you? I mean, that's a great deal. Exactly. It's a great deal.
Perspective out, that's great.
Mm-hmm. And here's how we go. It's like a seesaw in a sense. So we've got price and we've got terms. Now we're just trying to come to make the seesaw even. So let's say, okay, you don't want 0% interest. All right, well, what if I do 2% interest? All right, my monthly payment goes up to $517, which is still dirt cheap, you know? All right, well, if you don't want to do those terms, if you don't want my interest rate, okay, I'll do higher in price. Say I go to 175, I'm $25,000 over your original price that you said, but my monthly payment only went to $572. So for me, this is where it makes a ton of sense. So that's why I say I don't really care about price. I'll pay you, over price as long as I can get the terms that I want.
Okay.
Because interest, I want to get that interest as low as possible because that affects my cash flow.
Okay. And you come up with the interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing. You could structure however you want. Now, some sellers may be aware of it already and they may want to structure their own thing. Okay. But
most people don't have that information.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. And if they do, they don't know where they're getting it from. Yeah. So they may be, let's say they want 10% interest. Okay, where are you getting that number from? That's really what I ask you. Okay, where are you getting that number from? I think it's worth it. Well, okay, so when I'm buying deals, typically I want to be an interest rate at 2% or so. So for you, I'll do 3%, something like that. You could just pitch it based off of what you know about the person, and things like that, and just seeing what is important to them. Is it price or is it terms? Okay. So if you don't want to give me my terms, I gotta go lower on price. But I would much rather have the terms that I want and whatever price that you want.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean that's what it is when it comes to owner finance. I want more owner finance deals. I just don't hunt. I don't have the time to hunt like I want to. But hopefully that'll change soon in the next couple of months.
Okay. You have time?
Huh?
You have time?
No, that's why I say I don't have time right now to be able to hunt. Yeah. I actually like doing it myself too though. But I will bring on people to do things like that, like drive. I've just been blessed because of my social media and such. Like I just make a story, people will send me a deal. But that's not a real sustainable way. Just I haven't done too many deals, but they've been big hitters, each time I do it. So one deal for me may be like 5 deals for somebody else. Okay. So I do want to be able to scale that. So definitely bringing in other people. It's just we got to get things built with the home front first. Yeah. That's
so when you look for those properties, how are you searching for them?
You can find them on the MLS, to be honest with you.
Okay.
You're gonna get a lot of no's though, because you got to go through an agent if they're on the MLS.
And that's kind of what I want.
Yeah, I had one time, I remember I was actually calling for deals in the MLS at one point. I literally had an agent, he told me, hey, go ahead and send me an offer, because whatever you offer me, I'm just going to counter the seller at a higher price, because I want this deal subject to, and I feel that it's predatory to do my client, like to present it to my clients, but if somebody presents it first, I'm going to present after. So I said, okay, if you
yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, he was honest.
Yeah,
instead of being like,
that's
true.
Send
it over.
That's valid. Yeah, that's a good point.
The honesty over being like, okay, send it.
100%. Yeah, that I'll give him that. At least he was honest. But you just kind of got to be able to explain it to an agent. I remember there's an agent, literally that I worked with before in Carolina. Like I've actually sent referral business to her. This isn't somebody random. And then when I posted one of my deals, she had commented. No, she didn't comment. She sent me a message. She was like, "Oh, how's it feel like ripping off sellers?" I was like, "Bro, like, what are you talking about?" Like, yeah. So I had to explain to her what subject 2 was and how it actually benefited my seller. That's what we're about as real estate professionals. We're all about finding solutions. So my deals, they couldn't have sold them on market. Actually, my first, they tried to sell on market, and it wasn't selling. So am I just gonna? My seller's in distress. They can't pay their mortgage. So should I just let it sit on market? Yeah. It doesn't make much sense when I have the ability to be able to buy it myself. So that's what it's about, just finding solutions.
I think a lot of people that have the negative connotation is because an agent told them, like, oh, don't do that.
Yeah.
Because people don't go around like, oh,
And they
I wonder
don't
if this is
know.
a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they just don't know. It's the fear of unknown. And also, like I mentioned, you know, what's being advertised and what's constantly being preached to you is, hey, you have to do it traditional. Same thing with wholesale. I get it. You know, my one of my former mentors, we had a conversation about that. He was like, wholesale's ripping people off, you know. Like, I had to explain how it's really not at the end of the day. We're in business for profit. So if I'm helping you out, or if I'm helping my seller out, as long as I'm helping my seller out, they're making money, they're getting the money that they want. Why can't I make money also? Why am I only restricted to a 3% commission?
Yeah.
Doesn't make much sense to me, you know?
Okay, that makes sense.
So as long as your help is different, if you're scamming your seller and your seller's not making any money, then all right, that's a little different story. That's not what you should do. But if your seller says, hey, you know, I want to make $75,000 from this deal, and you can get them $75,000, who cares if you're making $100,000 or whatever your number is, because you gave your seller exactly what they wanted and you were able to help them in their problem. Because a lot of times wholesale deals, they're in distress, so they need quick and immediate help. So I'm helping my sellers out.
Okay. I feel like I would have to see it like in a scenario, because there's been situations with wholesale, or even like have JV deals. That's fine. Like JV, that's fine. But sitting in front of the person, I do feel like that. I'm like, damn, like, okay, am I ripping them off? I know they can get so much more. Like, is it okay for me to do this? And I start feeling bad. But now that you say it, like, okay, let me go see it now. That makes sense.
Profit is not a want in a business. It's a need. Like, a business needs profit to survive. So let's say you just broke even. Well, there's no such thing as breaking even because the market is constantly appreciating. I think year over year is 9% that the market goes up. And then, of course, with inflation, other prices do increase. So, all right, if you just break even and you don't profit, your business is going to die. So you have to profit for your business to do what it needs to do to maintain even basic function. Now, if you want to grow the business, be able to provide for other people, same thing like with the real estate team. Like, we need to profit per month to be able to provide different things for our agents. If we aren't profiting, then we can only get worse, because now I have to cut back on expenses to make sure that we profit. If I cut back on expenses, that means less resources and less options that you guys will have. So the more we profit, the more opportunities that you will have, because I can take that profit money. I think people don't think of businesses smart. There's been a lot of bad examples of businesses. So, for example, a lot of people think what's in your business account is your money to pull from. So if you have, let's say, $50,000 in your business account, okay, I can go on a $50,000 vacation. No, that's not how to run a business. If you want to take money, which you should as an owner, you got to do a draw for owner pay. So if you got $50,000, all right, I want to take a vacation. All right, you can do a $10,000 draw for owner pay. But you can't use that whole money for whatever you want to do for leisure. And even if you're taking a big draw for owner pay, realize that's going to affect your P&L and also going to affect your next couple of months too. So the more money you take for owner pay, the less things that you have to be able to do. So, you know, that's kind of my spill when it comes to just businesses. I don't even know how we got on that subject.
No, I get it as a business. When I look at things from a business, that's when I'm like, okay, cool. But
that's what you are. As a real estate agent, as a real estate investor, you are a business. So you got to run your business as a business.
I'm getting back into that. At one point I did. And then somehow I ended up being a volunteer. And then now I'm like, okay, wait, like restructuring things right now. That's kind of like the chapter I'm in. Your big thing is
you got to remember you're helping out people. That's the big thing. It can seem like you're not helping out people, but I would just say, just challenge your beliefs. Are you giving your client what they want? Okay, if it's a yes, then you're good. As long as you're giving them what they want. It's bad if you're not giving them what they want. Then that's bad. But if you're giving them what they want, then you're good to go.
Okay.
And remember, your business needs to profit. Now, it's different though if, like, I have a listing that we just withdrew. The owner, he said, hey man, you know, we'll take whatever your advice is, because he was considering selling it or renting it. We had it on market, we had it under contract, and it appraised for $20,000 lower. So yeah, at that point he was like, hey man, like, We don't really want to go on market. It's just a lot of go back on market. It was already sitting for a little bit. So he said, hey, what do you think we should do? Now, at that point, like I said, businesses do need to profit. I could have thought, hey, I need to make money, so let's sell this. I said, man, honestly, if it was me, I would just rent it out. He has a 2% interest rate. So I'm like, yeah, you should probably just rent it out, So situations like that, give the person, what they really need. Don't just always think about your profits, of course. So yeah, I mean, I turn down money, but I'll do that all the time as long as it means helping out the client, because that's what we're here for, is just to help people, serve them at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't ever want anybody to be in a worse position than when they started out.
Exactly.
Like ever.
Like I had a wholesale last year where I made $75,000 on an assignment fee, but the owner was very happy. She was happy with everything that happened. Now people may be like, oh my God, you ripped the seller off, you got so much money and blah blah blah. Okay, well, was my customer happy? Did I give them exactly what they wanted? They gave me a 5-star review afterwards. They call me all the time. They love me, all things like that, because I gave them exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
And in return for that, I was able to get paid a substantial amount.
Okay.
So that's just all you have. It's just a mindset thing.
Yeah. I like that. Even recently, like having to negotiate commission or have buyers pay commission. I actually had to negotiate my commission with my buyer for the first time. I hadn't done that yet. And I was like, okay.
Just let them know, hey, your 3% is how you operate your business. That's how you can provide value to your client. If you have to go to 1%. All right, so let's say like it's a graph. You got 3%. All right, so 1%, let's say it goes to driving. 1% is to marketing. 1% goes to Uncle Sam. So if you take a percent from that, all right, well, I can't take from Uncle Sam. That's going to be there. So I only can take away from driving and marketing. So if I take away from driving, that means I have less availability to show you houses, which means less value that I can give you. If I take away from marketing, all right, well, there's less value that I can give you there. So I usually have that conversation too when people want to argue about commission. Like, hey, it has to be this because this is how I can guarantee you I'm able to provide you 5-star service. And it's going back to the example of value over price. People don't care about the price that they have to pay most of the time. People care about the value that they're getting. So that's why people will pay higher for things that literally makes no sense. Like, take Dior, for example. Why is a Dior t-shirt $600? There's literally no reason. Like, the material is basic, whatever. But people perceive Dior shirts as a lot more valuable than your Gildan $20, $10 t-shirt, whatever it is. So people will gladly pay that $600. So you got to think of yourself. Are you Gildan or are you Dior? We don't want Gildan agents. We want Dior agents.
Okay.
Okay.
Which makes sense. All right. I like that.
Yeah. So that's how I have that conversation. Other ways you can find subject to or owner finance. Your traditional ways: door knocking, driving for dollars, all of those things. Of course, are you familiar with those? Okay, cool. Yeah, door knocking, driving for dollars, mailers, social media ads, or any type of ads. Social media, asking anybody, do they know anybody buying or selling a home? Your past clients. I brought 3 homes from my past clients. Because you're already their trusted real estate advisor. So I'll usually actually any listing appointment I go to, I'm always going to pitch buying it first. Now I'll run a net sheet though. This is how I was being transparent with clients. So I have one that I really wanted to buy, but they were going to net $80K if they sold it. So after showing it to them, I was like, yeah, I mean, even though I want it, to be honest with you, it makes more sense to just sell it on market, which they did, and they got the profits that they wanted. So that's what it's about. All it boils down to just giving people the option at the end of the day, just providing value, and they'll respect you a lot more when doing that too. People get a bad rap because like it's sleazy or whatever. It's because they are like trying to force something down, like somebody. I just give everybody their options. Same thing like with Roland and Amanda. I just let them know like, hey, these are your options and this is what it is. So
yeah, I should have that sooner, but yes.
Yeah, you gotta, it's tough because sellers are a lot more emotional than buyers. to be honest with you, for their houses, because they made memories there. They live there every day. You know, especially if they live there, then they think it's better than what it really is. It's like, take that house for example. Like, that's literally an unsafe house, but they live here every day, so they're like, hey, my house isn't that bad. Well, actually, yeah. And the biggest thing is dealing with objections, being able to have proof that you are actually saying, you know, what you're saying is valid. So if I'm ever in a negotiation, I'm ever having an opposing view, I'm gonna have proof to back up everything that I'm saying. And if I give you numbers, I give you comparables, how can you argue with what I'm saying? People will do it sometimes.
Oh, I know.
But then I know, okay, you're just unrealistic. You know, this probably should spend my time in another place. And what happens is, because they're unrealistic, no one smart buys their house, and they circle back. You know, they're like, all right, you know, at least you were straight up with me. Maybe let's, you know, let's negotiate more.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a long game. A lot of times with these ones, you may not get them first time, but as long as you follow up and just stay on it. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
It's kind of
okay.
I'm leaning towards.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think low equity ones, those are really good too.
Okay.
Low equity ones, VA ones especially, those are really good. Those are.
Really? Okay, so initially I was avoiding those actually.
Why?
Because I felt like they would need to sell. Of course, they have like the limit that they can get to, but I don't want it to affect me later down the road. So I was like,
it won't affect you. It depends on what they want to do, ideally. Okay. Yeah, it depends on what they want to do. A lot of VA people, at least from what I've seen, is they don't want to purchase another house for a couple of years. So, all right, in a couple of years, then we have that conversation. But it's important to get their eligibility up front also, too, to know. So, all right, if they bought a $600,000 house, then it's going to be tough, you know, to do that. There's still other options, like you could always refi out and things like that when it comes time. But most of the time, if this is their starter home, their VA home, they're not even halfway to their eligibility. So you got a lot of flexibility in there. I do let them know about the eligibility thing just in case.
Which I typically do too. Especially when people have you, they're like, oh, I didn't think I could buy again. Or they are under the impression they have to sell that home. So I have been kind of having that discussion. I never even considered doing the two of it. Yeah,
and you can do it. You could combine it too. Also, that's how I did my first one. I like to get creative with them. I'll say that. Because they needed, I forgot how much they needed up front, but they needed a good amount up front, and there was also a lien on it that I had to pay off to purchase it. Okay. So I got in it for like $12,000, which is still not a lot, but more than I wanted to be after paying the closing costs and lien and things like. And I gave them a payment up front. But they wanted, I forgot what let's say it was $20,000. Okay. Let's say it was $20,000. So I wasn't gonna do that and pay all that up front because I'm past my $20,000 mark. So what I did was, instead of a balloon payment necessarily, I did like owner finance for that $20,000. So I stretched that 5 years, 1% interest. Yeah, over 5 years with 1% interest paid per month. So I paid them like $200 a month. Now, remember, this is a seller finance property, so I'm cash flowing $900 a month. So I just take $200 out of my cash, so I still cash flow $700 a month. Okay. It's all about getting creative with it.
How do you get people to be okay with that?
Why wouldn't they be? I just said it to them like, hey, you know, this is just passive income that you guys can have. You may think $200 is like not anything for real, but to some people, you know, that pays for their groceries, you know, pays for their water bill, things like that. So they're fine with it. Because they said they'd rather have that because they were getting funds up front too. Because you gotta remember, anytime somebody gets a large sum, Uncle Sam comes knocking. So that's how I usually get them to be able to go for that, because all right, instead of getting all this money up front, you can stretch this out and you don't have to pay as much to Uncle Sam because he's gonna come knocking regardless. So let's do it this way, and he's not really gonna come knocking, or if it is, it's gonna be for a much smaller amount, you know. Okay. So that's usually how I get them to go for it. Because it goes back to the question. It's like, okay, what do you need? What do you need $60,000 for? Like, what are you planning on spending $60,000 on? Now it's different on a situation like If they need a surgery, something like that, all right, yeah, you should give them, they probably need their money up front. But, okay, a lot of people, they just want to, quote unquote, retire.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. All right, well, what's the best way for retirement than getting monthly money coming to you where you don't have to do anything? You check your account on the first, the money's there.
Okay.
And I say, hey, if I default on my contract, and guess what? If I miss one payment, all this goes back to you. You can say F me forever, and you can do the same exact process with somebody else, or you can sell your home and make even more money now because you have more built up equity because I've been paying your principal down.
Okay. That's smart. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I pitch it to people. And yeah, it's good.
You know when you feel like you know something, but when you go try to like implement it, you're sitting there looking like you're just unsure. That's kind of how I feel right now. I'm like, okay, I understand the concept, I understand what it is, I understand how to do it. If I were to go pitch this right now, I feel like I would look ridiculous.
I would say practice. It's probably a good way. Like if I'm ever learning a new concept, I'll like role play with myself in the car. Think about just possible objections I'm gonna get. Now the thing is, you're not really, because if you haven't done it, you're not gonna really know what the objections for it.
Yeah.
So I think that's why just having the general knowledge is really going to be really good for you. I would say get this book, Wealth Without Cash by Pace Morby.
Okay. I think my brother has it actually.
Yes, great book. Literally, I read 50 pages of that for my first subject to deal on the contract. I didn't even read the whole book, just read 50 pages.
Okay.
So if you need a contract too, I can give you my contract.
So subject to contract is different.
Yeah. The rain contract, nah, that you're not gonna use that for wholesale.
I have a wholesale contract.
Let me see. I think. Oh no, this is my wholesale contract. I don't think I have a subject to contract here. It's probably there's some at my house. I know that for sure. Yeah, they're definitely. So I get the wholesale contract as a one pager, and then I'll also have a subject to addendum, and then mine is custom. Yeah, mine is custom because I put different clauses and things like that to protect everybody. One that's different, that I know not a lot of people have, is I have a tamper judgment put in the clause, put in the contract, like a tamper clause, which states that if a seller decides to tamper anyway, meaning they go to a mortgage company, they're like, hey, you know, this is what's happening. They try to like mess up the whole subject to thing, you got a $20,000 judgment.
Okay.
So even though we say nobody would do it, you never really know, you know. People will, because they see on their credit account, hey, this mortgage is still here. They may start feeling some type of way. They're like, oh, what's he doing with the property? And, well, I really feel like because I still have some ties to it, I can get this back. Nah, let's just go ahead and eliminate that before it even starts. So you already know when you get those ideas, I got $20,000 on the line, so let me not mess around.
So this is such an out there question. With them still having responsibility of the loan, could they take out a HELOC if you have the property in subject to?
Ooh, that's a good question. That is things that I want to know more about also, to be honest with you. I was just listening to a podcast about that because I was wondering, could I take a HELOC out of my subject too? Because I've got like 200,000 of equity in one of them. I was like, man, let me basically saying they don't have any like rights to the property anymore.
Okay.
Which, you know, sounds kind of harsh, but it's true. You don't have any rights to the property anymore. Like, I'm gonna, you know, be paying the insurance, all of that. Like, only thing that ties you to the property is the mortgage is still in your name, but you're not even making the payments.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say the best, you know, solution for that is put in the contracts that they can't, you know, do anything like that.
And then the difference between subject to and wholesale is just longevity that you keep the property.
Nah. Yeah, I mean that's a difference, but they're like two completely different stratospheres. So wholesale is just an assignment. So you could do a wholesale for a subject to deal. Okay. I think I tried to do that at one point actually. But a lot of them are just sweet for me, so I like keeping them. But I mean, I guess technically you could do a wholesale or assignment. So wholesale is just you're assigning basically you're flipping a contract.
Yeah.
You're familiar with the?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Subject to is just where it's.
Yeah. Subject to, you can still do any exit strategy you want. You can flip it. Like that flip was the subject to that I did.
Okay.
Or you can keep it as a rental. You can make it a short-term rental, mid-term rental, long-term rental.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do, because it's your house. You have all your options. You can do whatever you want with it.
It's basically yours. It's just not.
Yeah.
The loan isn't yours.
Yep. The loan isn't yours, but the deed is in your name.
I like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn how to do that. I want to do it like soon.
Okay, you can do it literally today. There's deals on Marketplace also, for subject to deals like all the time. I just don't like the ones on Marketplace because you gotta pay a wholesaler fee.
Okay.
But the thing about paying a wholesaler fee is if the numbers make sense. I wholesale too, so like I want people buying my wholesale deals.
Yeah.
As long as the numbers make sense, then okay.
Okay.
But as an agent, you probably don't need to because you can find your own deals.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot more access and a lot more abilities than your average, real estate investor.
Okay. I like that.
So yeah, I think you can find a deal later today if you wanted to. Or a lead. Let me not say a deal. I think you could find a subject to lead early today.
I think I could too, actually.
So now you know what to do. You just gotta do it. Don't get caught in the space that I was. It took me a while to do real estate investing because I was just so, what we call mental masturbation. Just constantly.
Never heard that before.
For real?
Yeah. Never heard that.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, just constantly always taking information, which is good. You want to take in a bunch of information, but it gets to the point where it's like, okay, you're hearing the same thing and you're still not taking action. Like, okay, then what?
Yeah.
Versus if you just take action, then, okay, you can learn these other things. That's how, I learn quickly, is because I just do something. Guess what happens when you do something? You run into a whole new set of problems. You're like, all right, well, I have these problems. Let me learn about these problems. All right, cool. Now I'm on to the next step. All right, now we have more problems. And before you know it, you have a whole collective of knowledge about a bunch of things you didn't think that you would know about.
Okay.
But it helps.
Yeah.
So.
Perfecting as you go, because I definitely have a bad habit of doing that.
Mental masturbation?
Yeah.
A lot of us do. It's hard to overthink. The thing is also too, you have a team around you. So like if you ever have a deal where something's crazy going on, just let me know. I can kind of walk you through it. And even if I don't know it, Title knows how to do it too. Like there's been times, my first one, I asked Title, I was like, hey, you guys have a contract for this? But I'm also in a mastermind too. So I just asked, and literally, well, the base of it at first was for subject to, but now we kind of transitioned to more other stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, there's plenty of help when it comes to it. Just saying, just be smart with your numbers. Don't overinflate your numbers and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Buy deals with space. So like, forgot what is it? Capacity. So if you're driving a truck and your truck is 9,500 pounds and you're going over, you shouldn't go over a bridge that says $10,000 pound limit.
No. Because
it's too tight. Even though you have 500 pounds, give or take, it's still too tight. You probably want to go across the street and find a bridge that has a 50,000 pound limit.
Okay.
It's that way. Like I just don't recommend buying deals that are super, super tight.
No.
There's
incidents and accidents like that.
There's give or take on it though. Like that one deal I'm telling you about, I'll buy it because it's tight for tax benefits. But yeah, I mean, you can. I know people who buy negative cash flow deals all the time because real estate will appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I don't want a negative cash flow deal.
I mean, but what I do, it's like almost impossible for it to be negative.
You think so?
Absolutely.
How's that?
Disabled adults in these homes.
Oh, okay, because your extra strategy is the group homes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Medicaid pays it.
Which is a super smart strategy. They talk about that in my mastermind, so I just never really got into it. I know the group home strategy and the home health care. That one is it's money.
It is.
I know a lot of people make really good money from home health care.
Me too.
I'm like, dang. Someone was trying to tell me about not too long ago. I really actually do want to get into that. I just need to find like a right team who can do that because I don't, want to be just doing it just for profit. Like that's not really fair to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I want people who actually like care about the patients and things like that. I know personally, that's not me. So I'd rather get people in there who do.
See, I do care about them. That's
Yeah.
the thing. So I'm good with that. But again, kind of goes back to me owning responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
My time is to my kid, and it's not to myself. I can't give it everywhere else. So
Mhm.
hiring people to be in place to do that is ideal. So right now I've partnered with a home health care agency. And
Okay.
that too inputs the clients in these homes.
Nice. Okay.
Because again, I don't have to do anything but collect the loan check. Medicaid
Good.
pays it, comes on the first, we're good.
Good.
But they asked me if I wanted to basically be that person that inputs these clients.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get into home health care. I can do a group home.
What is the benefit of you doing that? More money?
Yeah, way more money.
Okay.
Way more money.
Okay.
Like 5 times more.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I should just weigh the pros and cons.
5 times more responsibility.
Yeah. You don't have time to do that. And I think that, that's the beauty of, real estate. Real estate doesn't have to be the end goal, Like, all right, you get these properties, you cash flow, that's how I go on vacations or trips all the time, is I just pull money from my rental properties. I'm like, all right, well, I'll just take owner pay this month and, yeah, pull from there. And it just gives you freedom to be able to do it. I want to get to the point where, all my passive income can pay. I'm almost where it can pay for my active income, where it can replace it can pay for all my bills, basically, is what I want to say. So I think that's a great place to be.
That's smart.
Yeah, because then at that point, all right, if your passive income pays for your bills, okay, what about your active income? Now you can invest that, you can save it, you can blow it, whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah, that's kind of like where I ended up being with renting that.
Mm-hmm.
And then downsizing, getting an apartment. Now that house pays for the apartment. I literally don't have to pay.
I thought about that at one point, to be honest with you. Because I got a 3-bed, 2-bath, and it's just me. So I was like, all right, I know if I rent this, I could cash flow probably about $1,000 a month if I rent it. But, well, I don't want to live anywhere where it's going to be $1,000. I will say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I thought about it, but I don't know.
That was how I felt. I was like, okay, it's me and my daughter.
Yeah.
We're expensive.
Sheesh. Yeah.
Besides cleaning up all day.
Yeah. 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 It might be like $600.
You leave them on?
January? No, I don't even know why. Like, I'm about to write a complaint letter to the mayor at this point. Like, what is going? Like, man,
no,
it'd be so expensive. Like, wintertime, my power bill is so much. Like 400, 500, 600. I think 632 was like the max. I was very loose after I saw it. I said, yeah, this is ridiculous. Like, how does this even happen?
Yeah, no, there's no way. Yeah, you might want to write a letter.
Yeah.
What's going on. That's crazy.
Thought about doing solar. I might actually, because I know I'm gonna keep that house. Okay. So solar only makes sense when you can keep the property. If you ever plan on selling it, no. There's a house I was supposed to buy started this year that I can't, because the solar cuts into my cash flow. It was already tight, and you got a solar panel loan on top of it. Okay. So yeah, I just wasn't willing to do it. I wasn't willing to do it. So
you said I don't want to live anywhere than
You said what?
You said I don't want to live anywhere than
Yeah, no way. What? I don't be in the trenches.
Yeah. Exactly. But that's how I felt. I was like, wait, it took me like a year to really plan what I was gonna do, because I'm like, my mortgage is like $2,500. Like the cost of apartments now, it's like $2,500. Like, what are we doing?
Yep.
I'm like, absolutely not. I had to figure out a strategic way to generate enough for me to do what I wanted to do. It took me a minute of like active planning, but it did work. Yeah. It worked. Now I kind of like got a strategy on doing it.
Good.
So, but yeah, it's trial and error.
That's what it's about. Trial and error. You can't lose if you don't quit. It's a big thing. Thing is, even when it comes to investing, you probably will mess up, but it's okay. Even if you lose all your money in a deal, all right, there's another deal. Yeah, there's another deal. You can bounce back, all that. It's okay.
Before I was a parent, I was more willing to take bigger risks.
Okay.
Being a parent, I'm like, I can eat cereal every night for 2 months. My kid's not going to want to hear that. Like, no, I have to do things smarter. So where I'm like a little bit more hesitant, and it has to make sense to me all the way through. Like, I don't like not seeing the end goal. Even if there are surprises once I'm in it, okay, I'll stress a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. But fine, we're already here, I'm gonna see it through. If I'm standing at the front of it and I cannot see all the way, like the light at the end of the tunnel, I'm not doing it.
All right, what's an example for that? So if you're talking about investing, you already know what your end goal is going to be.
Yeah, even flipping, like I want to flip.
Okay.
That's kind of like ideally. So get these properties subject to, flip them, and then rent to the group home. But I need them to be ADA.
Okay, so you get the property subject to, you'll flip it, and then you rent to the group home. So what about your cash in the flip? For the flip, you funding that out of pocket?
Most likely.
Okay.
Unless.
So you're fine with waiting to get your money back?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Because it generates so much more.
Okay.
So the person that's interested in kind of like working together who has a license and does the home health care, we would be splitting it more than fair. So I would make that money back way faster than.
So I would say if you're gonna split it, then I would split the rehab costs also too. It would make more sense. It does. Instead of because why would you front the whole rehab and then split the profits from the group? Well, that wouldn't really make much sense to you.
But I would be getting more because I'm renting it as if it is a property. Like he's just renting it from me, basically. It would still be my home. But I need it to fit the criteria in order for them to even rent it. Okay. That's kind of where that comes into.
Okay, so you get the property. Let's say you flip this property. It takes, let's say it's a $60K rehab, and then after you spend $60K, well, your fees for subject to. Let's say you get in cheap. Let's say you do $10K, right? All right, so you're $70K in after it's done, after the rehab is done. So when do you think you would get your money back? So let's say, okay, you're renting it to him, I guess. You say you're renting it to him. So, all right, if you rent it to him and then he does whatever he does with it. So are you getting the proceeds of whatever he does with it too?
No, it would be like a lease. Basically.
Oh, okay,
lease,
gotcha.
But charging more than the average.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So how much would you rent to it?
Depends on specs. Like right now, the house will have 3 bedrooms. Yeah. 2 bathrooms is rented for $38.50.
Okay.
So if I do something 4 bedrooms, it could go more. But even now, like that is not rented at the stage.
Okay. So in its current condition, you rent it for $38.50.
Yeah, where it is now.
Okay. Oh, we're using different houses.
Yeah, it's a different house.
So let's say trying to think of it's hard to know without having a specific property. So let's say this property put $70K into it for buying it and the rehab. So if you rent it out for, let's say, $4K a month, it will probably take what? 40 divided by 70,000 divided by 4,000. You take 18 months, 18 and a half months, so about a year and a half to get your money back, which isn't bad at all. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Real estate is an investment, a long-term investment. So,
after that money is still becoming.
Yeah, I think it's good if you have like the space for it, right? Yeah. So if you have money to spend that, and where having it do what it does doesn't affect you, I think that's super smart. But it gets tough. It's like, let's say you had $75K in your account. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Yeah, if it's $70K, you have $75K in your account. Nah, because you're not gonna be able to get into any other investments because it's just such long term for you to even get your money back, for you to even break even. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's a good way to park your money.
Or even private money.
Yeah. I think private money is smart. I think more people got to tap into private money a bit more. That's kind of why we're up in the content too, is because I want to get into that space about raising capital and such. So like, how can I say it? I get a lot of people who can't show money. I'll say that. I know a lot of people in that boat. So let's say you have $50,000 of untraceable money. Well, you can't deposit that in the bank. And you're not going to get a loan because you don't have any credit. So what do you do with that other than letting it sit under your mattress? All right, well, partner with me on a real estate deal. How about you give me your $50,000? I'll give you, I'll be generous. I'll give you 10% return over 3 months. So, damn, how do I do that now? I always forget the equation on how to do that now. But basically, I think I could just do it like that. Okay, they get a 6. No, I'm pretty sure I'm doing that wrong. Divide that by 12. Whatever. But
I think it is like 500, but
yeah, yeah. What is it? 500 per month?
you said over the course of 3 months.
Well, yeah.
So then 1,500.
That's not.
I
I guess
that doesn't sound right.
1,500 would be their total return, over 50,000. I feel like they should get a little bit more.
It seems so math.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure out how to do that equation later. I always forget how to do it. It's so annoying. But that's kind of how I pitch it to people, and a lot of times, they're fine with it. It's like, okay, well, what else would your money do? Same thing, even if it's a regular person. All right, you have a large sum of money, and you're just gonna let it sit in your savings account, get 0.001% interest, even in your 401k. Okay, you do a draw from that. Now you gotta pay Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think it's the same thing with your IRA. If you pull out, yeah, you gotta pay Uncle Sam. So this is the best way where people can get into real estate investing without really anything, because that way I'm just taking your money, I'm doing the whole deal. You don't have to do anything. You just wait your time.
Okay.
And as a real estate agent, you have the rapport to be able to do that. People already see what you're doing. They already know you're well versed in real estate, so they're going to trust you to be able to do it. Kind of got that method from Grant Cardone. He said he made I think he said his first 100K from the stuff that he pitches out as 10x things like that. Pretty sure he meant his first million, but he said he made his first billion, I believe, from all the people that didn't buy his stuff, but the people who saw who he was, knew he was doing, and was willing to invest into a fund for him. A lot of people, they don't want to do this stuff. They don't want to do real estate investing because it's too hard, it's too complicated. I don't blame them, but they want to make money. So you position yourself as a person who's going to do all the hard work for them, and you just give them their return. It's a win-win for everybody.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. So I think it's a great space to be, and that's how you can do even bigger deals too.
Okay.
Like syndications, all things like that. Scaling it up doesn't have to just be single family residential. A lot of these like big apartment buildings and things like that, when they sell, these are syndications. So syndications basically when a collective group, they get together, they all pool their money. So if you saw Magic Johnson's the owner of the Commanders, he's one of the owners. So all right, when people typically buy a sports team, it'll be like in that model, like a syndication.
Okay. Yes.
So if they sell it for, let's say, $3 billion, it's usually not one person that's paying that. It's usually a collective of people, and your percentage that you get on the deal is based on how much that you put in. Yeah, that is a big thing with it. You do gotta trust, because it's a business partnership. At the end of the day, it's almost like a whole separate company. So if you're gonna get involved in the company, then you should probably trust people that you're investing with. And yeah, I agree 100% with that.
If I'm not interested in how you run your business, I wouldn't run my business how you run your business. I don't want to commingle those businesses, I guess. Like.
Yeah, and always having things on paper. No handshake agreements. Yeah, those are very specific things. That's why I've not slowed down, but I haven't got too much into that space yet. It's because I want to have a lawyer draft all those things up and make sure we're doing it right. Yeah, because people hit me up all the time, like, get me a deal and such, and I'll pitch the private money to them. They'll be interested. I'm like, oh shit, all right. Now you're interested in not what I do. Oh, it's not. Yeah, all right. See? Well.
And I can teach people about it all day. Like I help so many people flip houses or do things. I'm like, all right, cool. And I haven't.
You just gotta do it, man.
Yeah, I know.
Just do it.
Like,
just know your first one is probably gonna be bad. But the thing is,
it was so bad. So I flipped the second property that I got.
Okay. For real?
Yeah.
How long was your rehab?
Like 3 months.
3 months for your rehab?
Yeah, it was bad. It was so bad. And it was.
How much did you have to do? You had to do everything?
Yes. Cool. Because the owner had passed away while he was in the process of rehab.
Oh, so you had to undo stuff also.
And then he had like no rooms.
Was it your contractor's fault?
Yes. But I ended up having my daughter in the midst of it. So I wasn't able to be like hands-on. I'm FaceTiming, I'm texting. It was so much going on. So when I finally was able to see it, I was like, this has got to be a joke. That scared me. That scared me because I had to pay so much. I had to have the electrical rewired, failed that inspection. They were like, if you would have turned on the dryer and the microwave, the house would have went up in flames. And I'm like, what? Yeah.
Is your electrician? Where'd you find these people at?
Yeah, it was somebody that was referred to me.
Uh,
So I was like, okay, sure, like let's give it a chance. Fine. Again, I had so many other things going on. Sure, fine, let's do it.
mm-hmm.
Everything in the house was wired together.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a bad contract. I'm sorry, that's terrible.
Okay, and then if you flush the second bathroom, it came up in the first bathroom tub.
Mm-hmm.
So to come in there after and see it, I was just like, I feel like I shouldn't have to be like standing over you to do this.
No, you shouldn't.
So I was like, all right, let's not do that again. Like a little bit more hesitant, but I know again now that I have way more experience, it would be the same.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you just had a bad contractor. Unfortunately, they took advantage of you.
Yeah.
It's tough. I had a client who
the contractor went to jail. I was like, hey, like this needs to be done. Not answering, not getting back to me. So I called the person that referred me. I'm like, look, like you need to get a hold of your person.
Yeah.
I've already paid them. Like this is some bullshit.
What do you mean you already paid them?
Yeah.
You paid them in full?
No, it was done in like increments.
Okay,
so by the time I was able to even go, the work was supposed to be done. They went to jail. They stabbed somebody at Jose Tequila.
What the?
Yes. Like life was so bad. Life was awful at that point.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah,
So I don't pay my guys until they're done with. So I pay them on weekly increments. Okay. And like, okay, week 1 we're supposed to do the roof. Week 2 we do the plumbing. Week 3 electrical or whatever it is. So I go there and I'll verify at the end of the week. Ideally, it shouldn't be me. It should be a project manager, but it was me. So I will go there and check to see, okay, is it done? All right. Well, if it's not done, well, guess what? You guys don't want to work on Sundays. Because what we're gonna do? We're gonna work on Sundays if you want to get paid.
Yeah.
So that's how I would do it, and yeah, you gotta be straight with them because nobody's gonna care about your house or care about your project like you will.
Exactly.
And that's the sad truth, but it's 100% true. Mm-hmm. And people will try to cut corners. So whether it's your GC or whether it's the subs, so you really gotta be on your GC and let them know like, hey, this is what it is, and don't F up basically.
Yeah.
Or if you F up, like just fix it.
Fix it, please, before you even tell me about it, honestly.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't want to hear about it until it's been resolved.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a big thing for me is, yeah.
Even, there was one in Suffolk, I was in love with this house. I would have booked her. That's the only reason I wanted to do it, because I was so in love with it.
Not a good reason to flip. You gotta take your emotional out of it.
Yeah, okay, I'm having a hard time. But I was in love with it.
Okay.
To get the permits was going to take way too long. And the hard money that I was talking to at the time, it would have exceeded it tremendously. So it didn't make sense.
Was historical district?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Those are risky. I wouldn't recommend those. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that.
But the house was almost dirt cheap. Like dirt cheap. Like they wanted $80,000. And it was beautiful.
What was the ARV? You remember?
It was like 3 something. That's why I was like, oh my god, let's do it. But they quoted needing almost $100,000 renovation. The permits were gonna take way too long because they were delayed, and I was like, I don't care, I love it. But the months I looked at the terms and what I'd be paying in interest, I was like,
yeah, your holding costs. Yeah, that's the thing about hard money is those holding costs.
Yeah.
Because hard money is usually what, at least 10% down if you get a great deal. Probably closer to 15 to 20% down. You usually pay like 3 points and 12 to 15% interest. Yeah. So yeah, it adds up really quick. Which
especially if it's not completed by that anticipation date, it's like okay. And we weren't even supposed to get permits back until after the
no.
But I was so in love with it. Obviously that wasn't a good reason, but I really was. I had a whole vision.
Yeah. But I get it. I don't think it's smart though to do ones that you really love, because then you can kind of, when you flip, you want it to be like as appealing to as many people as possible. Yeah. So like that's why people do gray. Gray LVP, gray walls, things like that, because you appeal to people. Versus if you're a girl, you might want pink. Well, okay, you want your house to sit, okay, because people don't want pink houses, you know. So just things like that you gotta remember. Other tip that I got was don't be cheap on the fixtures, stuff like that. You don't want to be cheap on your kitchen, your primary bedroom, primary bathroom. Don't be cheap on those. Your house will sell quicker if you do stuff like that. I even did stuff like I replaced the driveway, because that's something that you see, even though that was expensive. that's something you see when you first get up to the property. So if I got, a real nice house with a cracked up driveway, with cracks all in it, then it could hurt resale value possibly.
Yeah.
So
or even just the curb appeal. If you pull up, you're automatically, that's the first thing you're gonna see.
yep, curb appeal is huge. Yeah. So we spent good money on the exterior, making sure that was straight, landscaping, all that. It really matters at the end of the day. When you first walk in the house, your living area, how that looks, that all matters. Big proponent for staging, for depending on the house, actually. Depending on the house. Yeah, definitely depends on the house. But yeah, those are just different options, when it comes to it.
I'm gonna do it like soon.
Okay. I'm gonna hold you to it. Now you actually gotta. Now you said it.
I know.
Out loud. You actually really gotta do it.
But
so.
The thing is, I usually don't say anything. I'm just like moving discreetly, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I just did this.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it out loud. Okay,
so. To hold yourself to it. Okay, yes. That's good. That's smart. So yeah, just do it. Like there's so many opportunities that are around here.
Yeah.
Just do it. Even like, to be honest with you, you could go on Vulcan or Zillow for sale by owner, and you could probably get a house under contract subject to owner finance from there, because you are actually a real buyer.
Yeah.
At that point, like you're not calling to list your house, you're actually calling because you're really interested in it. Okay, then you get your foot in the door. Okay, maybe you're not interested in doing subject to owner finance. All right, well, got other options for you.
Okay.
So it's just multiple ends. You always want to give, multiple options. I like to say it's like having multiple tools in the tool belt. So most real estate agents, all they have is a hammer when they go to a listing appointment, which is, hey, we're just gonna list your house. Well, what if the hammer isn't efficient for what you're trying to do? Okay, now you need a crowbar. Now you need a screwdriver. Now you need, a drill. Just having multiple things, that gives you a lot more options, and that's how you can convert leads more than just your average real estate agent who's just gonna list your house.
Okay.
So, yeah, different options, different flavors.
Well, tell me the book again.
Wealth Without Cash by Pace Morby.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great book on subject too. That is the best one, and it's real in like really simple language too. He writes very well. It's not like super complicated like some real estate books are. Not a bunch of formulas or anything like that. It's like real stories. He actually gives stories that you can tell your clients too when explaining subject too. Like he gives the bunny story and he gives the F-150 story. Because a lot of people don't understand the subject too. So let me see if I remember the F-150. Okay, I'm gonna tell it like it was me in the story.
Okay.
Or no, I can't tell it like it was me. I'll say I got a friend. I got a friend named Jim who he had a Ford F-150 that he needed to sell. So he placed that Ford F-150. He placed it on Marketplace. Nobody was buying it. All right, he placed it on Craigslist. Nobody was buying it. So he just forgot about it. He's like, maybe someone will buy it eventually. But Jim's wife, Mary came up to him one day and was like, Jim, you got this F-150 just sitting in this driveway. Like, this is blocking my car. This is an eyesore. Like, we need to get this out of here. Now, Jim is a smart man, so he obliges with what his wife says. So Jim, knowing that it won't sell on the market, he's like, okay, dang, what can I do? Jim decides, all right, let me place an ad for it that someone can buy it on terms, right? Where someone doesn't just have to give me the price that I want, because he was selling it for $50,000, but Kelly Blue Book said it was worth $40,000. So he said, okay, let me sell it on terms. Now Jim, because he's selling on terms, he wants a little bit more money, so Jim sells it for $55,000, or Jim lists it for $55,000, but he placed in the description, I'm selling this on terms. Okay, within 10 minutes, Jim gets somebody interested in purchasing his Ford. They're willing to purchase it on terms. So with terms, basically, the buyer would be giving him monthly payments for that $55,000 instead of giving him that $50,000 up front. Now this solves Jim's problem, because now Jim does not have this Ford F-150. Him and his wife, they are perfectly fine. They're not arguing anymore, and that buyer is satisfied because they get their new truck, and Jim is satisfied because he's getting his monthly payments.
Okay.
That's I haven't told that story in so long. I need to refresh up on it. But yeah, that's explaining terms to buyer or a seller. So if you can explain that to them, then usually they're able to get it. They're able to understand, what terms are.
Okay.
So that's
anybody that's had a problem.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, in a sense, the seller, they become the bank, which subject to not really, because the bank is the bank. But owner finance, that's usually how I explain it. I say, hey, you get the option, you become the bank now. You hold all the power.